Hey guys, welcome to Wrestling Days and welcome to this WWE action figure video. This is a big one. We are going to take a look at the McMahons. So we are not going to look at every single McMahon figure, but we're going to look at the key ones, the important ones. And this idea came courtesy of Wrestling with Kobe. And so big shout out there because it's a great idea. And so as soon as he mentioned it on the live stream, I thought, yeah, we're definitely going to do that. So shout out to you, my friend. So yes, we're going to take a look at lots of different McMahon figures. We're going to look at Vince. We're going to look at Shane. We're going to look at Stephanie. We're going to look at, well, we're going to try and look at Linda. But that is going to be a problem. I'm not going to look at Triple H because he is just a whole video on his own. So we're going to focus on those three. So let's get started, shall we? Let's have a look at their first figures. So on screen right now, you can see Vince McMahon's first action figure, 1987 LJN. That's right, we're going all the way back to the 80s. This is Vince McMahon in a red jacket, blue trousers, based on when he was the announcer, commentator, interviewer. He did all the little odd jobs. Of course, he still ran the company as well, but in front of the camera, he did all of those little odd job things. And yeah, very, very cool. I absolutely love the look of this figure. I think it's very cool. The only problem is, of course, no articulation with those LJN figures. They are just posed, and that is it. You really can't do a great deal with them. And I've got to give a massive shout out to Liam Smith, Sarah Short, and Christopher Dean, because they really helped me with finding out what Shane and Stephanie's first figures were, because there was a few that were out around the same time, but we believe that Shane's first figure was Superstars Series 8 for Jakks. This was out around the middle of 1999. This is Team Corporate King of the Ring figure line, and you can see that Shane is in a pin-striped suit. And I don't think the facial likeness is brilliant. I don't think this is a very good figure at all, actually, but we do believe it was his first figure. So you're going back to 1999 for Shane. When it comes to Steph, again, we're under the impression that it's this SmackDown figure. It comes from the year 2000, and it comes with a great accessory. It comes with a toolbox. Now, I can only imagine that's because a toolbox can be found under the ring sometimes. I don't think in her spare time she was like a mechanic or anything like that. I want to give a shout out as well to Vintage Jakks BCA that informed me that this was Steph's first figure, but her first figure was actually meant to be a back alley street fight figure. You can see an image of that on screen, but that sadly was cancelled. Next up, a lot of you watching this are going to be into your Mattel figures. I know I am. So let's have a look at Mattel figures for Vince, Shane, and Steph. So let's start with Vince. On screen, you can see two figures. We've got one of him in a suit and one of him in his wrestling attire. The one in the suit is his mail away figure. I believe it's still the only way you can get Vince in a suit in the Mattel line. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we get a new Vince very soon, because they've not done many. And we really do need a Vince in a suit. Certainly now that he's on screen a lot more. He's kind of come back in front of the camera a lot more. So yeah, you could only get that if you collected vouchers from Toys R Us and then sent away for it. The other one was much more available, readily available. I believe that was a Toys R Us exclusive as well, though. Perhaps Vince McMahon only wants to be available in Toys R Us. That is going to be a problem going forward. But that network spotlight is based on when Vince McMahon won the Royal Rumble. And it's a very cool figure, actually, because you get a championship belt. I think the likeness is very good. So, yeah, there is the Vince figures. Next, we got Shane. Again, you can get basics and elites. You can get him in a suit. You can get him in wrestling attire. You can see one here of him in a suit. That is a battle pack that he comes in when he's wearing a suit. And he's got some really smart trainers on as well. And as well as that, his first Mattel was Elite Series 50. This is him in his wrestling attire. I believe this was from WrestleMania 32, when he had a match against The Undertaker, the Hell in a Cell match. So this is an Elite figure. It's based on that event. Comes with a commentary table. That's like one of the best accessories any Mattel figure has ever come with. So a very impressive set. And to finish off, of course, we've got Stephanie in a suit and in her wrestling attire. Her first figure was actually her in a suit. You can see it there on the left. Says first time to line. It's got Stephanie in a business suit with high heels. And then the other one is, I think, her first Elite. I believe that was Elite 37, based on her SummerSlam match from 2014 against Brie Bella. Next up, referees. So here you can see Steph as a ref. Sadly, there is no figure of Steph as a ref. Hopefully we get one, though, in the future. That would be very cool. This is her as special guest referee. This was No Way Out 2002, a no DQ match between Kurt Angle and Triple H. Of course, Shane, though, here you can see Shane as a guest referee. You can see the figure as well, available in the SummerSlam line. So that was a SummerSlam basic. Shane was a guest referee at SummerSlam for the match between AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. That was for the United States Championship just a couple of years ago. And then we've got Vince McMahon. This is the WrestleMania 15 set, which is very confusing because you get The Undertaker, Stone Cold, and Vince McMahon, but that was not a match at WrestleMania 15. Like, Stone Cold faced The Rock, Undertaker faced Big Boss Man. I can't even remember what Vince was doing. He probably was at home, or more likely in the gorilla position. Yeah, this is a pack that's got all three of them in, and one of the worst figures I have ever seen. Look at that Vince McMahon. It is trash. Talking of trash, let's move on to some weird figures. Let's have a look at weird figures. Let's start with Vince. So here you can see... Look at that! Like, that suit is about 20 sizes too big. Why have they done that to Vince McMahon? How does this figure even exist? Like, he looks like he's got a bit of a pig nose, and he looks like he's, like, wearing a suit that's 20 times too big. How, I don't understand how someone is, A, brave enough to make this, B, brave enough to show it to Vince, and C, how it gets signed off. How did this get into the shops? There's so much wrong here. I could do a whole video on just this figure. Moving on, though, we've got Shane, who actually hasn't had that many figures, so it's kind of hard to find bad ones or weird ones. He did have a Bendham's, so you can see the Bendham's on screen. You can see the Vince Bendham as well next to it, and they were all right, actually. Like, the Shane one was a bit bland. He looks like a referee. But the Vince one is actually quite cool. But the Shane, you can get a SummerSlam 1999 pack. And you get a pretty awful Shane, but an even worse Vince. Look at that Vince. Like, honestly, I don't know what was going on around this time. How did they make that last Vince and then make this Vince as well? Like, did someone at Jakks hate Vince McMahon? Finally, Steph, and here you can see Party Stephanie McMahon. This is quite an infamous figure. It's quite a shocking figure because they did not paint underwear on her. So under that dress, I am reliably informed. I've never checked myself. I don't own this figure. I've never looked for pictures. I'm not going to start now. But apparently it does not have underwear on. So when they made more figures, though, going forward, they did correct that. So apparently it's only this line. It's only this version of the figure. So do with that information whatever you will. And finally, we get to talk about Linda. Here is an actual Linda McMahon figure. They have made one, or at least tried to make one. Every time they get on the verge of releasing it, apparently she cancels it. Obviously, she's wanting to go into politics. She's in politics now, in all fairness. So that's why I don't think we'll get a figure of her anytime soon. Maybe once she finishes with politics, she might allow them to make a figure. And certainly what Mattel are doing right now, I think they could make a very accurate Linda McMahon, and I don't see any issue with that. You know, we've got a Vince, we've got a Steph, we've got a Shane, we've got some awful ones of all of them. We might as well get a nice, pretty good Linda McMahon. Yeah, sadly, we've come close, but we've not had one yet. And that brings me to the final subject, and that is the classic superstars line. The reason I wanted to look at this is I genuinely think these are amongst the best figures that you can get of Vince, of Shane, and of Stephanie. So let's start with Vince. There's two figures on screen. You can see a fantastic figure of him, again, back in his commentary, announcing, interviewing days. He's got an old school jacket on with an old school logo. It's very cool. I really do like that. Comes with a headset and a microphone as well. And then also you get him in his Attitude Era wrestling attire. Same guy, but two very different characters here. And I think they've kind of captured it quite well in these classic superstars figures. Shane has got one as well. Looks pretty good. Way better than those early Shane McMahon figures that we saw. And of course the same goes for Vince as well. This comes with a championship belt also. And it's starting to look a little bit more like the figures that we would get from Mattel. And then Steph, really interesting, because with Steph, you get a decent figure. There's one of her on her own. Or you can get this double pack that comes with Triple H. And what I love about this is the belts are painted. That was always a very big criticism when it came to Jakks, was that they were making belts, but the detail wasn't really there. They weren't painting them. You could make out what they were, but they were nowhere near as nice to look at as the Mattel ones. These are really good. These titles are awesome. Maybe they painted these ones because this is like a limited edition pack, so not sure how many of these they made, but you get the Women's Championship for Steph, you get the World Heavyweight Championship for Triple H. I think the ring attire is pretty accurate. Like, I'm sure that's what Steph was wearing when she won the title. So, yeah, I love that pack. I think it's really, really cool. And that is it, guys. There's loads that we could look at. I could have showed you this stack down set that's got Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin in it, or we could have looked at this Vince McMahon pop vinyl. There's loads that we could have gone through, but I wanted to just give you the best of the best figures, the worst figures, the weirdest figures. And I think we pretty much covered all of that in this video. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully, I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.